Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Thanks for stopping by. In this month's edition of the newsletter, we're going to take a closer look at perfect pearls, and I'm going to be showing you a few ways you can use those today. For all of today's projects, I'm going to be using the new Mermaid's Tail stamp and die combo from the Essentials by Ellen line. It is my new favorite stamp and die combo. You can see how wonderfully this stamp tail and the die cut tail coordinate together. And I love this because the tail is the perfect size to create a focal image on your A2 size card. So you don't need much else other than this fabulous mermaid's tail. Now you can see there's some pearls in this. They could also be used as bubbles and some coordinating sentiments as well. So I love that there is a great mix of kind of snarky sentiments as well as really encouraging sentiments too. So you'll see me put a few of those onto our cards today. But first, let's get into the techniques with perfect pearls. So I'm going to take my mermaid tail stamp here and I'm inking it up with Versamark ink. Now I'm using Versamark ink so that my perfect pearls will stick and bind to the cardstock that I'm using. I'm using like some teal colored cardstock today, but you could experiment with some different colors of cardstock as well as different colors of perfect pearls, which you'll see me doing. Now for my first mermaid tail, I'm going to use perfect pearls in the color Perfect Gold. And you can see I've just tapped my brush into the product and then just kind of tapped it off into the lid, and now I'm swirling it over that stamped image. Now I did find that it's actually better if you kind of pounce this Perfect Pearl product on, and don't be afraid to use too much. But this is a really fine mica powder that leaves you with a really pretty pearlescent shimmer. Since it is so fine, you kind of want to try to keep it contained. And you can see I just went ahead and tapped that container onto my work surface. That kind of works the product down into that little canister that it's in and keeps it from kind of flying out everywhere when you open the canister. Now that second color, that kind of white, shimmery, silvery color that's there on the top now, that is the actual Perfect Pearl color. And this one I'm putting on the bottom is the blue patina color. So you can see how each of these is giving me a different effect. This blue patina gives me a more tone-on-tone look, but the Perfect Pearl has this really beautiful shimmery white finish. So these are the few I've done so far. I have the Perfect Pearl up there on the upper left, and then that Perfect Gold and the blue patina. Now this is Perfect Pearls in the color Biscotti, and I actually think this one might be my favorite one because it kind of gives you a warmer tone. It's very high contrast on this darker cardstock, but instead of leaving you with that silvery color that the Perfect Pearl leaves you with, it gives you more of a golden color, more like a champagne-y gold. You can see this is the Perfect Gold that I brought in there, and that is the Biscotti there on the top, and it just has like kind of more of a champagne gold. And then that bottom tail that you just saw me do was actually in the Perfect Pearl mint color, and that turns out to be a beautiful combination on purple cardstock, which I'll show you in a bit. Now, once I got all of these done, I went ahead and used the coordinating die to cut these out, and you can see this one here. This is actually the mint on that teal colored cardstock. It's very beautiful. Now, that was the first way to use Perfect Pearls, which is to use it over a stamped image. Now, you can also apply some ink through a stencil, which I'm doing here. Now, I've gone ahead and used the Impression Obsession fish scale die to create this stencil out of just some Nina Solar White cardstock, and then I took my Versamark ink and pressed it through that stencil. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the Perfect Pearl in Biscotti, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the mint here. And I've just gone ahead and mixed it onto my craft mat, and then I'm picking it up with this fluffy Perfect Pearl brush. And then I'm just going to kind of blend it over that inked area. And the blending of the two colors didn't really give me a whole lot of change in my finished project, but it is very beautiful. I have a lot more Perfect Pearl on this than I do the previous one. It's a little more dense because the pattern is more dense. Now I went ahead and stenciled on, using that same stencil, some Versamark ink onto this mulberry cardstock, and this turns out to be my favorite combination. This is the mulberry cardstock with the Perfect Pearl and mint, and I think it gives you the perfect mermaid tail of all time. I mean, look at that. You get that beautiful iridescence that is just beautiful. Now, I love this color combination so much, I went in and die cut a purple mermaid tail, and I'm stamping it using this mermaid tail background from My Favorite Things, and then adding that mint perfect pearl over it, and it is just beautiful. I was really surprised to see the way that the color of these perfect pearls really pop off of this colored cardstock. Now, another way you can use perfect pearls is to stamp off some of the perfect pearls. So I'm going to coat this entire mermaid tail with some Versamark ink. So the entire surface is covered. And then I am using some perfect pearls all over the top of this mermaid tail. Now, once I get the product all over it, you don't have any detail, but here's where the detail comes in. I'm going to take this and press it onto this background stamp that I've inked up with a little bit of Versamark ink. That Versamark ink is going to help pull off some of that perfect pearl product. And then you're left with the reverse of what we had before when we stamped it on. Now, I wanted to do this again, but this time I'm using that teal cardstock once again. I've covered the entire thing using the mint perfect pearls. And then I'm going to ink up the coordinating stamp set using some Versamark ink once again. That Versamark ink is really important because it's going to help the perfect pearl stick to the stamp. Don't worry, it cleans off of your stamp, but it's going to pull that product off of your coated image and leave you with a really beautiful pearlescent result. Now, Perfect Pearls has a built-in binder, so be sure that you go ahead and just mist it lightly with a little bit of water. That will kind of lock that perfect pearl into place on your project. Now, that step's completely optional, but if you're worried about it rubbing off, be sure to just mist it lightly with some water, and that fixative will activate and really lock those perfect pearls into place on your project. So now it's time to take some of these mermaid tails and create some cards out of them. I've gone ahead and taken the wave stamp. This is from the Essentials by Ellen Otterwear stamp set, and I've stamped a few of those onto this card front using some Versamark ink, and now I'm just adding some of the mint perfect pearl over the top of it to create some shimmery waves on my card front. Now, I decided it would be fun to kind of have this tail disappear into the card front. So I'm just taking my blade here and I'm just trimming along the top of one of those waves. And that's going to let me push that tail into the card front so it really looks like it's coming out of those waves. I went ahead and just adhered that on there with some foam adhesive, and now I'm finishing it off with some Nouveau drops, some glittery, shimmery Nouveau drops, and it is so beautiful. You'll see that in the finished project. Now for the sentiment, I decided to white heat emboss it on some vellum, so I went ahead and prepped the surface of my vellum using my EK Success powder tool, and then I applied some white embossing powder after I stamped my sentiment and heat set that. Now for my second card, I went ahead and used that same wave stamp and stamped it onto some vellum. And then I coated it once again with the Perfect Pearls in mint. And I will tell you that the vellum tends to grab onto the Perfect Pearls a little bit more, probably because it tends to be a little bit more staticky, but it definitely leaves you with a beautiful result. You just may have a little bit more pearlescence in places that you didn't stamp. So just keep that in mind. For the sentiment on this card, I stamped the "I'm done adulting, let's be mermaids" sentiment on here using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I covered it in some clear embossing powder and heat set that so that I would get a really nice, rich black image on top of this vellum. And then I'm going to use some foam adhesive to adhere my mermaid tail on top of this vellum. And then once I get that in place, I can hide some more foam adhesive behind the area where that mermaid tail is covering. And to keep these cards really simple, I just added little touches here and there. You can see me finishing off that purple tail there with a little shell by my sentiment. And for this one, I am going to stamp some waves in the Mountain Mist ink from Altenew. And I stamped my sentiment there that says "Mermaids don't have thigh gaps." I love that. And then I just used some foam adhesive to adhere my mermaid tail onto that card base, which I made from the Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. And I'll finish that off with a few sparkling clear sequins. Now, I love the linen cardstock when I am keeping my cards super simple because I feel like it just adds a little something to make it feel finished. Now, one more way you can use perfect pearls is to mix them in some water in a mister bottle and then just mist it all over your background. I didn't use this in my projects today, but I did want to show you that you can create a pearlescent spray by mixing that perfect pearl in a mini mister and then spritzing it onto your cardstock. So that completes my card projects today and a look at a few ways you can use perfect pearls on your projects. I think they complement these mermaid tails perfectly because you're left with this beautiful, subtle, shimmery, pearlescent finish. And depending on the colors that you use and the types and colors of cardstock that you use, you can really get some beautiful results. As always, I will have links to all the featured products in the description at YouTube, but for a full list of products, be sure to visit the In Touch blog because I'll have a complete list of products there as well as more still shots and more information and some tips and tricks there. Thank you again for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed these projects as well as a look at the new Mermaid's Tail stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line and a few ways you can use perfect pearls. All of these products are available for purchase at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.